Dr. Beth Brooks, welcome to the Rule Breaker Studio. We're happy to have you here with us today. Dr. Brooks is an accomplished healthcare executive who has a unique blend of leadership experiences from three distinct sectors of the healthcare industry: for-profit companies, healthcare tech startups, global advertising agency, nurse staffing agency, academic administration, and nursing operations within healthcare systems. She is an internationally recognized expert in the quality of nursing work life, having designed a questionnaire that has been used in 45 countries and translated into 10 languages. Dr. Brooks also has extensive boardroom experience in private companies and a healthcare system, university, and a variety of nonprofit organizations. Foundation, community-based organization, professional, and advocacy associations, shaping those organizations' strategy, financial discipline, service, quality, member services, and risk mitigation. She's received the Graduate Teaching Award from the UIC College of Nursing, was selected as a Ronald Wood Johnson Foundation Executive Nurse Fellow, and recipient of the AONL Leadership Mentor Award. Dr. Brooks is a healthcare executive who will raise challenging questions, facilitate creative problem solving, and navigate uncharted waters. A visionary, critical thinker, and expert collaborator, she leads with a clear voice, devises solutions for complex business challenges, and effectively leads execution.
I'm so excited.
Okay, Dr. Brooks.
So cute. Well, thank you. And I was going to say, you forgot to say I was a healthcare rule breaker.
You are.
Just kidding.
So I've known Beth for quite a while now, and I will say I love talking to you. I love those people that come in and they're not afraid to just say what you think and have a healthy dialogue. I think that's why you're perfect for this podcast. You always stimulate my brain to think so much differently than most people in my circle. So thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome, Crystal.
Okay, I have to share my little piece. So I love talking to Beth because she is one of those people, like, just like you, Crystal, like she's one of those people when I talk to, I feel like, okay, I can tell you anything that I'm thinking right now. And it's going to be a conversation of like, okay, well, how can we, find more information for you to be able to channel those thoughts and really challenge like what that conversation looks like. So I love talking to Beth because I usually come with like all my wild ideas and I'm like, okay, Beth, like help me get organized here because I'm a walking wildfire. So I love having those people in my life that help me with that.
Oh, both of you are so sweet. And thank you. And it's so funny. I was thinking Crystal, met Alyssa through you.
Yes.
Yeah. It just like all goes around and I love it. You're a walking wildfire. I didn't know that.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Well, I think I've experienced the fire. I didn't know it was walking around.
In the best way.
Yeah.
In the best way.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny because I'm trying not to, show too much of my age, but I think when you get to be at this point in my career, you kind of look and you're looking for those bright lights of hope and the future. And that's what you are to me, both of you, and I say this all the time. I'm like, thank goodness this next generation has got the energy and the ideas and the fortitude, right, to keep pushing, because we got a lot accomplished in my, almost 40 years in nursing. But, we've got you guys, thankfully, coming behind, pushing. And I think you learn so when you have an idea, it's like, heck yeah, why not? Because you've seen everything else that maybe didn't work so well. So why not break a rule and try something new, right?
Yes. And we're so thank you for the generative spirit, because we need the wisdom and we need the encouragement and support. And you just continue to do that in everything that you do.
Well, and you know what? It's funny about that too, is there must be something about us, the three of us, and there are others, they can be in our tribe who, and and I'm not disparaging anybody who is in a traditional role, right? I mean, thank goodness we all like and enjoy and have passion for something different, right? If we all like the same thing, nursing would be a mess. But there are people who are still trying to keep the wheels on the track and the train on time. And there are those of us who have tried some other things in our careers, thinking, well, maybe we can affect change from the outside, so to speak. And you just start to realize that it's funny. There's a lot of people that are of the similar kind on the outside, and there's a different kind of personality, style, quality, competency and talent of folks who have stayed to keep the trains running on time. And you need both, right? Because the ones who are making the trains run on time, they have no time to be creative and to be, generative. And then you need these folks on the outside kind of pushing the envelope. So I think there's a reason why we're all kind of, have this connection, I'll say.
I agree. We're trying to build an entirely new track.
Well, yeah, I think we need both tracks, right?
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. All right. So you want to know why I break rules, huh?
Yes. So that's what I was going to say. Okay. So we brought you on the Rule Breakers podcast because we already know you're a rule breaker.
Yeah.
Ground rule number 1. We already know you're a rule breaker. But we really just want to hear about, I really would love to hear just your story. Like, how did this transform? How did, all of your ideas come to fruition and get where you are now?
I think this is so funny. I'm going to go back to the beginning. No, I remember being in my undergraduate nursing leadership and management course and thinking to myself, I'm going to be the vice president of nursing someday. So I knew I kind of wanted to follow that leadership track. I didn't follow that exact track because I never became the vice president of nursing, but I still went on a leadership track. And I'm also the kind of person where someone would call and say, oh, we'd like to ask you if you'd consider taking this position. And I would be, well, what is a nurse going to do in an advertising agency? And it was like, well, we really don't exactly know, but we know that we have a lot of clients in healthcare, in hospitals, and we have a lot of business in this space. And we are recruiting all these healthcare professionals to work for these employers. And we figure if we had an insider who knew that would be good. So it's like, okay, I'll try that. So pretty much everything that has ever come to me in my career has been someone saying, hey, would you think about doing this? Or we'd like you to think about that. And I would be like, okay. And I think that's because we as nurses have a nursing license, and I will never, ever, ever let my nursing license lapse. Mm-hmm. And I will always have that as almost like a security blanket. That you can always find work. And so for me, it's like, I will try something new because I know that I could always find nurse a job. I could find something. It's not like I was going to be unemployed. And so I figured, why not try something new?
Right.
So I have, I don't know if I have a question or comment or what it is, but it'll come out. So you talked about joining an ad agency, and I have been really diving head deep into what does it look like for nurse leaders to build communication strategies and build brand awareness around their own leadership style and who they are, whether it's, your internal presence in a health system or your external presence. And so I found that nurses understanding principles of marketing and what that looks like is a huge challenge. And I'm wondering, on your journey and in your interactions with various different types of nurses, how is it, or what are some things that you would share that would be like key principles for just marketing? Because when I think of marketing, I think, oh yeah, if you're a pretty good marketer as a nurse leader, man, the buy-in that you could garner, man, the practice change that you could implement and how you could sustain those practices because you're constantly marketing, those things. So that's how I think it would be translatable. But I know it's a skill that, we don't necessarily hone. Especially not from a nursing school perspective.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack there. Walking wildfire. gosh, I don't even know how to answer that. One thing I will say is that I'm the kind of person when someone asks, hey, would you like to try this? And I say, yes, I do whatever that is. And then I immediately go home and figure out, what in the heck did I just get myself into? I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
I better figure out what it is. And so then you start learning, and you're kind of self-taught. And then you sit, like, I think about the ad agency, and I went in there and I just had to learn the terminology. I had to learn the lingo. You had to be like a sponge and just absorb. And then I would happen to be in grad school at the time. So then I took a marketing class in grad school. So you have to sort of be curious, and you have to be a little self-taught. And then because you have to build that credibility. So for me, the marketing, yeah, you have to know product, place, price, promotion. I mean, you have to know, some of the market research and how to build the creative and that. And that's one piece, right? But then the middle piece is like the brand. And then there's another piece with it, which is communications. And they're all similar but different. And so they are slightly, I don't know, you almost have to understand marketing and selling and how to position something so that consumers want it. And then you have to figure out, okay, how do I position this new endeavor or this new initiative so that these employees want it, right? And so you have to sort of change the context and then be able to kind of translate between the two, from an ad agency to a hospital setting. But then communication, I think, is different, Alyssa. There are some people who are gifted communicators, and then there are others who they can get the message across, but they charismatic is powerful, what have you. And I think some of those basic, communication frequencies, staying on message, being truthful, those you can teach, right? Those are skills that you can teach a nurse leader. But charisma, or the ability to connect with an audience, that sometimes that's more elusive and more personal. Like our friend Amy Trueblood.
Yeah.
She's in front of a crowd. She's amazing. Right? She's honest, she's herself, she's truthful, she's funny. And I think that's hard to teach. I do think some people are gifted with communication, but you're right. Nurses would be well served to understand a little bit more about marketing and what's involved. But then we say that about everything, right? And the next thing you know, we want nurses to know everything about everything, and that's too much too.
Well, as you're saying that, I just keep thinking about Alyssa saying your personal brand, and you're talking about the charisma, which leads me back to just presentations I've watched about executive presence. And the outdated, I actually just found one in an old office in LA, and it had a what to wear to work, and it had pantyhose and like this stiff jacket. And we've had this conversation before of where's the balance, because I want to be my true authentic self,
right,
yet come across with that charisma, but I need to be me. And pantyhose is not me, but a dress and some Jordans are, and that's the brand. But what does the world see about the brand? You've got to be careful about,
right.
And that becomes your reputation.
Right. I do think you have to be mindful of the audience, right? When you can push the envelope a little. Like it's like being in the ad agency. I literally walked into the New York office one day, and one of the creative directors was walking by with flip-flops on and jeans with just holes everywhere. And I think I had a client with me, and the client was just like, I said, yeah, that's how they dress here. But and in a creative ad agency, sometimes you can get away with that, but you can't go like that to a client site, right? You can't, we would always hope that the creative team like cleaned up a little bit before we took them out to a client pitch. And they always did. And usually they were like, they were always very appropriate. But you do have to know your audience, Crystal. You can't, you still can be your authentic self. I think if you had to wear pantyhose, I'm pretty sure you could do it.
I don't know. Higher personality. I love that.
But sometimes you have to know your audience, and you don't want to ever, I say this a lot to nurse leaders, you don't ever want to put yourself at an unnecessary deficit.
Right.
Because I hate to say it, but first impressions, they are what they are. And you don't ever want to have to correct, it's like, go ahead, throw those pantyhose on. It's only for an hour. You'll be okay.
I don't know. This would be a whole 20-minute debate, Beth.
Oh, I know. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? You do have to know your audience. You do have to dress for the situation. I always remember talking to other people about, you have to dress for the job you want and or the one you aspire to. And I do think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. We went off on a little tangent there.
I know.
But it is part of your leadership brand. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Alyssa,
Okay,
I didn't know if you had something next, but I'm dying to know about Nurse Capital.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say.
You two are funny. Okay, so you want to know the Nurse Capital story. Oh, so and you both know this because we've talked about it. I would say the last 5 years, there has been so much activity with lots of colleges of nursing starting innovation degrees, certificates, nursing partnering with business, engineering, computer science, blah, blah, blah. And you're seeing all these new degree programs. I don't know if you know Kelly Landsman, who's a biomedical engineer and a nurse. Her first career was biomedical engineering, and now she's a nurse, right? So you're seeing all this kind of interesting synergy. That word's overused, but you're beginning to see this movement of all this innovation and entrepreneurship just kind of bubbling up everywhere right now in nursing. And mind you, and in healthcare in general, right? Large health systems have all put in innovation departments in the last 10 years. Now, mind you, the rest of the world's been doing this for 20, but we just got onto it in healthcare, right? And so, and then there was those brave young, they're not all young nurses, but there's most of the nurse entrepreneurs I see are under 40, maybe under 45. I mean, it's definitely the new next generation starting these businesses. And one said to me one day, why don't we have a syndicate of nurse investors? And I was like, gosh, I don't know. Why don't we? And at the same time, 5 years ago, it became a big deal in the venture capital world. Women entrepreneurs were unable to, or having difficulty being funded by male venture capitalists. And so then all of a sudden there was this huge growth of women-owned venture capital funds. My best girlfriend owns a fund. And then there was all this activity, women VCs. Okay, now these women VCs, we're only going to invest in women because women are having a hard time raising money from men, right? So it just kind of trickled over into nursing, right? Into healthcare. So now we have our fund, Nurse Capital, strictly investing in nurse-owned led startups. And so we're very brand new. You both know that. We just finished, literally today, we just finished wiring our first two investments to our first two companies. We have 3 companies, 3.5 sort of in our portfolio, because I've been, and my partner, Marla Weston, we've been mentoring nurse entrepreneurs for probably I've been doing it since 2016. And so it just was like all these things happened at once, right? Women need money, not enough venture capital, nurses need money. And so here we are. So we decided to start this fund. And if it's hard for women to raise money, it's really hard for nurses to raise money because no one understands what we do.
Yeah. I actually asked, I saw your post on LinkedIn this morning, the Nurse Capital post announcing.
The first 2 investments?
The 2. And then I also knew we were going to talk to you today. So I reached out to somebody I knew that is invested in this and said, why did you do it? And the response I got was, I need to put my money where my mouth is.
Yes.
Right. it's not a huge buy-in to have to do it. And I'm able to support nurses and also maybe have some financial gain. So it seems like a no-brainer to do the right thing.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, of course I'm biased, Crystal, and yes, but I also, yes and yes. I mean, I think a lot of the investors, we spoke to lots and lots of people, right, when we were raising money. And lots of nurses were interested. You both know that we often are the dual caregiver in many families, right? You're that whole sandwich thing. So it depends on where you're at in your life, where you're at in your career, whether you have the financial wherewithal that you want to put some money at risk. Because yes, we would like to make money. That's what this is about. But there's no guarantee. It's not like putting your money in a brokerage account. This is very, very speculative. And so not every nurses aren't necessarily big risk takers. And many women don't know how to invest in venture funds. And certainly it would be very new to nurses. So it did take a lot of education to explain. And I know for me personally, I got much better explaining, because even when I first started explaining, the buy-in to the fund was $50,000. A lot of people thought they had to write that check all at once. And it was like, no. We, you spread it out and blah, blah. It's a whole other podcast. But there was just a lot to explain. And a lot of it was very new to people. And I think we're going to start looking at raising the next fund next year. And that'll be a little different because there'll be more awareness, hopefully more knowledge. And yeah, we should be putting our money where our mouth is. And theoretically, this model that we're using, theoretically, the purpose of having the connector or the kind of fund we started is that it's an operator model. So the limited partners are operations people. They know whatever clinical or whatever, they know hospital operations, health systems, healthcare. So we should be able to spot the really hot deals and the hot, good ideas. And so we can then ask those limited partners to go out and help our companies grow and be successful. And that's not the way every fund is managed. And so that also, I think, lets nurses put their money where their mouth is and really help the nurse-owned companies grow.
I really want to have another podcast with you because I need to learn so much. Just all the things that you said just now. I would definitely be the person that says, oh, I have to write you a $50,000 check today.
Yeah.
And to learn that whole, how that works. But there's not enough information out there for us.
No, I know.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I definitely think there's work to be done, Beth. There's work to be done.
I'm working on it. Trust me. I just published an article in the Journal of Nursing Continuing Ed about what can nursing continuing ed development directors be doing with nurse entrepreneurs. That'll be one that's coming in Nurse Leader. I've already written one for NLN. So it is, but there's still work to do. You're both right. I mean, I realize that.
Okay, Beth, we're coming close to the end of our conversation. So I'm dying to know if you could break one rule. One rule. You can't be like the ultimate rule breaker over here. She said we were going to break all the rules. If you could break one rule in healthcare, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, Alyssa, that's a really hard question. What would it be? And I'm reluctant. It's not that I'm reluctant. I do think we've got to figure out how to put a monetary value on nursing care. So I'm not going to say anything specific about how we might do that, but we have got to get to the point where the patient family can pay the nurse for their service like we did in the old days. What's old is new again. And I'd like to see us go back to where the family hired the nurse, the nurse took care of the family in their home, in their environment, in their community. And we were focused on health and wellness and could get away from the medical model. It's destroying our system. And I don't know if that's a rule. I don't know. but that's what we've got to figure this out. And I don't know that it's reimbursing. It might not be.
Right.
But we've got to figure it out, because we can no longer afford to be buried and just be on the overhead.
Yeah, I think the way we budget in healthcare, that we're still very heavily volume driven, is a detriment to our communities. I was recently speaking with a group that does community paramedicine, and they were just talking about some challenges that they have, even getting referrals from the patients that consistently bounce back to some of the local ERs, just because it's a volume based system, and if you're bouncing back at least outside of the payer window, it's more of a benefit than it is a negative, even though it may not be what's best for the patient. So I definitely think that we have to look at and challenge the models of care. And I know there's push for value based, but we're still heavily volume dependent. So we haven't made the move yet. And I agree, we have to figure out how we move away from that part of healthcare.
Yeah, I read an article not too long ago. I guess this is my rule I would break. I would break the medicalization of healthcare.
Ooh, I love that answer, because
Right?
I think so much could change. And there are people doing brilliant work in this space, right? Our friend Jasmine at Navi Nurses. Wow. Changing the game.
Well, and since when is having a baby a medical condition?
Right. That's so true.
All of our nurse midwife colleagues, I mean, that shouldn't be so radical that you want to have your baby at home.
Right. Yeah. It just seems foreign to us.
Yeah, to us, because we've grown up in the modern medical era.
Yep. I mean, it's just the wrong model. It's the wrong
which could be the ultimate medical error, right? That we did this to our healthcare system.
Yeah. Plus, it's expensive. Anyway.
Okay, Beth. So if our listeners wanted to reach out to you and chat or talk about investing, or talk about their innovative product or entrepreneur journey, what have you, where do they find you? How do they talk to you?
I think they should go to nursecapital.net. They can email me at beth@nursecapital.net. And that is the best place. I'm on LinkedIn too, but anything Nurse Capital related, being an investor, nurse entrepreneurs, nurse inventors, yes, that would be the best place to find us. Or they can call you or Crystal, and then
yeah, or they can contact us and we'll connect.
Yeah, we'll figure out how to get you there. But I'm so grateful for what you're doing, Beth. You're shaping so many of us in so many ways, but also this whole journey that you and Marla have gone on. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been challenging but fun.
Yeah.
Good. That's the best things to have.
Yeah.
Challenges and fun.
But thank you for having me too. This was fun. I do like breaking rules, so I appreciate being invited.
And we're happy to have you in the Rule Breakers Club.
Yes.